The WNBA is in absolute chaos, and it's all linked to Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. These two young stars have dominated the headlines, brought fans to the stadiums, and skyrocketed the WNBA's visibility. But behind the glitz and glamour, the league is bleeding out financially, and fans are going nuts trying to understand how the WNBA, at the peak of its popularity, is somehow set to lose up to $50 million in 2024 alone. How did this happen? How could two of the biggest stars in women's basketball be involved in such a massive financial crisis? Let's dig into this chaotic situation and break down exactly how the WNBA found itself in the middle of a financial disaster, even with stars like Clark and Reese at the forefront. To say that Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese have taken the WNBA by storm is an understatement. These two young players, fresh out of college, have been lighting up the league, making headlines, and turning every single one of their games into must-watch events. Clark, with her insane shooting ability and highlight reel plays, has dragged the Indiana Fever to relevance in a way no one saw coming. Meanwhile, Reese, with her dominant post play and fierce competitive spirit, has made every game a spectacle. Fans are flocking to arenas to see these two in action. And the numbers don't lie. In 2024, the WNBA experienced a massive surge in both attendance and viewership. Games featuring Clark or Reese pulled in over 1.8 million viewers, a number that rivaled even some NBA games. Fans were shelling out serious cash to see these two stars play. Merchandise sales exploded, with Clark's jersey becoming a bestseller within weeks of her entering the league, surpassing even WNBA legends like Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi. Everywhere you turned, it seemed like the WNBA was finally on the brink of becoming a mainstream success. But here's where things get messy. Despite all this success, the WNBA is facing a financial catastrophe. The league is set to lose $40 million to $50 million this year. That's a number no one saw coming, especially not with Clark and Reese dominating headlines. So how is it even possible that a league that's never been this popular is hemorrhaging cash? One major problem is the WNBA's deep financial dependence on the NBA. You see, the WNBA is still supported by the NBA, and its revenue pales in comparison. Despite record attendance and sales, the WNBA isn't bringing in the kind of money necessary to offset its high operating costs. And here's the kicker. WNBA salaries are still low, even with the visibility and sponsorship deals players like Clark and Reese have secured. It's not enough to pull the league into profitability. Angel Reese recently stated that her basketball salary isn't even close to the kind of income she should be making, given her star power.
Like Reese attracts so many fans, little girls included, but their salaries are so low.
And it's not just the player salaries. The WNBA's deal with media companies hasn't brought in the windfall it desperately needs either. Even though viewership is through the roof, the media rights deal isn't cutting it. It's worth a fraction of what the NBA commands, leaving the WNBA struggling to catch up. With the WNBA's financial troubles mounting, the league has been looking for ways to bring in more revenue, and one of the most talked about solutions is expansion. The WNBA is planning to add new teams, with one franchise already confirmed for the Bay Area. The hope is that adding more teams will bring in new fans, new sponsorships, and new revenue streams. But expansion is a huge gamble. For one, expanding the league means taking on more costs. New teams need new arenas, new players, and new staff, all of which require money that the WNBA simply doesn't have right now. And while the expansion fees might provide a short-term cash injection, it's unclear whether adding more teams will actually solve the league's deeper financial problems. Meanwhile, fans are losing it over the league's financial situation. Social media has become a battleground, with WNBA fans expressing their frustration and confusion over how a league that's seemingly at the peak of its popularity could be facing such dire financial straits. Twitter, Instagram, and Reddit are filled with debates about what went wrong and who's to blame. Some fans point the finger at the WNBA's management, accusing the league of failing to capitalize on the popularity of its star players. Others blame the NBA, arguing that the league's financial dependence on its male counterpart has prevented it from growing into a self-sustaining entity. And then there are those who simply feel betrayed. They've supported the league, bought tickets, watched games, and now they're being told that the WNBA is on the brink of collapse. One thing is clear, the WNBA's financial crisis is alienating its most passionate supporters, and that could be disastrous in the long run. If the league loses its core fan base, it could be game over. At the center of all this chaos are Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, the two players who were supposed to be the WNBA's saviors. Both Clark and Reese have had phenomenal seasons, and their presence in the league has brought in new fans, new sponsorships, and new media attention. But despite their star power, it seems like the league's financial woes are too big for even these two to fix. Some insiders have speculated that the WNBA's reliance on individual stars like Clark and Reese is part of the problem. The league has invested heavily in promoting its top players, but that strategy has its limits. What happens if Clark or Reese gets injured? What happens when the next big star comes along? The WNBA's current business model is built around a handful of superstars, and that's a risky bet. One of the most contentious issues in the WNBA's financial crisis is player salaries. Despite being the face of the league, players like Angel Reese have spoken out about how little they're being paid. In fact, Reese recently revealed that her basketball salary is nowhere near what it should be, given her star status. Many WNBA players still have to go overseas during the off-season to make ends meet. This isn't just a problem for the players, it's a problem for the league as a whole. If the WNBA can't afford to pay its top players what they deserve, how can it expect to keep them around? And how can it attract new talent when other leagues, both in the US and abroad, are offering more competitive salaries? So, where does the WNBA go from here? The league is at a crossroads, and its future is far from certain. On one hand, the WNBA has never been more popular. Fans are flocking to games, viewership is up, and stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese are making headlines every week. But on the other hand, the league's financial problems are mounting. And if the WNBA doesn't find a way to fix them soon, it could be in serious trouble. Some have suggested that the WNBA needs to restructure its business model, moving away from its dependence on the NBA and focusing on building a sustainable, independent league. Others argue that the league needs to negotiate a better media rights deal, one that reflects its growing popularity and brings in the kind of revenue it needs to survive. And then there are those who believe that expansion is the key, that adding new teams and reaching new markets is the only way to ensure the league's long-term success. But whatever the solution, one thing is clear. The WNBA is running out of time. If the league doesn't make some major changes soon, it could be facing an even bigger crisis in the years to come. The WNBA is in the middle of the biggest crisis it's ever faced. Despite the unprecedented popularity brought in by stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, the league is hemorrhaging money, losing up to $50 million this year alone. The WNBA is at a critical juncture, and without swift and dramatic changes, it could lose not just its financial footing, but the faith of the very fans who have made this season one of the most exciting in history. Let us know what you think in the comments section below. For more WNBA topics and updates, make sure you watch the recommended video that you see on the screen right now. Thanks for watching.